Hello and welcome to the Yggdrasil podcast. I am your host, Ratatosker, and today I'm very happy to have Ziostorm with us again. Hello, Zio.
Hello. Thank you for having me back on here.
It's nice to have you back. How are you feeling?
Overwhelmed. That's a very easy way to put it. We're getting daily Elden Ring tweets right now. We got more gameplay coming, probably new info seemingly every day. I can't keep up with it, but
When do you
it's
expect
nice.
the new gameplay?
I'm thinking, I have a sneaking suspicion I'm not going to release a video tomorrow, just in case. But if not tomorrow, then probably sometime next week.
So you're expecting those impressions from those big streamers that we saw like real soon.
Yeah, that's not based on anything. It's just kind of like the way I'm feeling.
Mm. I would
Just a lingering
expect
dread.
I would expect something like, yeah, relatively soon. And then, we know for sure some big news in Summer's Game Fest. Like I would be surprised
You
if there
think so?
wasn't something in Summer's Game Fest. Like we'll get the impressions. We'll probably get a trailer, a normal-ish trailer. Because leading up to Elden Ring, what did we have? We had this gameplay trailer that was released, so we have that equivalent, right? We have that already. Then we had the story trailer that happened afterwards, and so now we have that. Now there's only the small things. There were like a couple of small trailers leading up to the release after that.
Yeah. They had that overview trailer,
Mm-hmm.
which was
Mm-hmm.
like, wasn't that like 30 minutes long
It
or
was
something?
it
I
was
don't
20,
remember.
yeah, yeah.
I chose not to watch that one.
Oh, you actually didn't watch that one.
Yeah, that was the one I didn't watch because that was like, what, a week or two out?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I'm good. I don't need anything else right now. So we got that, and then they had reviews come out early, but I don't think we're going to get early reviews for this one.
Mm.
I think they have the little bit of impressions that the streamers got to play, and I think that'll be it.
I'm fine with that. I'm cool if nobody gets a review because I'm not getting one.
I
So,
hope not, man.
so
'Cause I'm not trying to get into this and then get on YouTube day one and have final boss spoilers
yeah,
on my recommended.
yeah. Scirocco full game walkthrough right there with the final
Dude, this
boss on the
happened every
thumbnail.
single From Soft release for me. It happened with Dark Souls 3, it happened with Sekiro, it happened with Elden Ring.
No,
Yeah.
no. Stay away from me, boss fight database.
Blacklist those channels, man.
Yeah. So, are you thinking you're going to be able to do the same thing you did last time and resist any further trailers, or are you going to try and watch it?
Well, the problem is we're a month out right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can resist like a week, maybe two out,
Mm.
but until then, I'm consuming everything.
Yeah, the issue is that it has a double cost for us. Like, ideally for me, this would be the limit. I think we're meant to see the story trailer. Like that's exactly the same as it was in Dark Souls 1. You're supposed to see that, and it's basically the opening that we didn't get in Elden Ring. But then past that, I would refrain, or at least I would give it a try, if it didn't have like a financial cost to not cover it as a YouTuber.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing for me, man. Like, this is my main job, and so it's like, okay, do I want to take the hit and just kind of tune out for a while, or do I want to, make money? But also, just as a fan, I can't resist because with Elden Ring, right, all the official stuff they released, aside from the launch trailer, I thought was going to be too much, but ultimately wasn't. They didn't really show much beyond Liurnia, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the game came out, and I was like, okay, they've shown too much already. Liurnia is like halfway through the game, but little did we know. So I'm thinking they're pretty smart about what they're showing. So I'm not too worried about it.
Do you recall back in the day when they did show Liurnia, it was GameSpot that kind of showed off a little too much of Liurnia, showed off some bosses.
Yeah.
And, well, not GameSpot, it was it GameSpot?
I think it was Game Informer.
Game Informer. Yeah. Now, did you agree with the people at the time that they were showing off too much? And do you feel that way now?
Looking in retrospect, I kind of felt like an idiot because
Right.
I thought it was way too much, but that was mainly due to the fact that we were kind of basing our impressions that Elden Ring would be similar to Dark Souls 3 in size, and not all 3 Dark Souls plus more plus, maybe double. So I at the time I did, but looking back in retrospect, I don't think it was too much.
Right. It seems to me like From Software does a good job to keep us kind of spoiler free, except for maybe the launch trailer that I didn't watch because
Yeah.
I was busy playing.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah, but I do recall Miyazaki had an interview around that time where he's like, you might just want to go in spoiler free, like just go in. We made the
Mhm.
game so that you'd go in blind, and I really appreciated that, because there's a subsection of people that think that the Souls games and Elden Ring are obscure enough that you're supposed to open it. You're supposed to open a wiki window and just like look stuff up as you play to make sure you don't miss anything. And I think that's just not the point. I think you'd have a better time. At least most people would have a better time if they went in blind and just miss stuff if you're gonna miss stuff. Just go
Well,
and
that's kind of like the quest log argument too, right?
mm,
Because, the way the world turns out at the end, I think is part of your story as the player going through it. Like you said, you're not meant to do everything the first time, which gives it that replayability. If you're going in trying to be a completionist your first run and have that wiki page open, part of the journey is maybe that NPC dying because you failed their quest. That's still part of the story that you're gonna have, your first playthrough.
hmm
And that's memorable, right? Because I think back to Dark Souls 1, whenever I played it for the first time, I uh I got Siegmeyer killed. He died to the one of those things in Izalith, right?
sucker thingies.
Yeah, he died during that for me, and I was so upset. And then I was like, oh, okay, I get to go back on a second playthrough and save him.
hmm
Well, I mean, the most you can in
You,
that quest line, but
you got to
yeah,
see
I
what
think that's a
happened.
that's a very memorable part of what you're supposed to have happen. I was playing yesterday because I'm doing a completionist run before the DLC, and I found a whole step of what's his name, Dialos, I think,
hmm
a whole step of his quest that I didn't even know existed because I'd always just skipped it, and then he'd go to the next part.
I never knew that patches would kick you down in some place until I saw
Yeah,
some saw it happen. Because I've done a lot of I did a lot of the quest lines. I'm like I was really arrogant. I was like, yeah, I got all the quests. I know where everything is. And then one day I see patches uh, over in the Volcano Manor area before you get to the Volcano Manor, and he just kicks you down. It's like wow, a whole patches interaction I didn't know about, and a cutscene I didn't know was there.
yeah, and it's crazy how many little details are just like that. I mean, I found a place in Weeping Peninsula yesterday where there's this big fight between a rune bear and like 25 wolves. I was like, what the heck? I'd never seen this in 2 years of playing this game and 550 hours in it.
Damn, 550. Damn.
Yeah.
I don't have that many hours. I probably had a lot on my initial run. Probably most of my hours come from my initial run. But I do find it harder to replay Elden Ring than I do the other games because, a lot of the joy that I get out of replaying the other games is to slowly like pick up items and look at the lore of the items. But
Mhm.
like just kind of pretend it's my first time through and then like pick up the items, read the item description as if it's with fresh eyes and try and get lore from that. But there's so many little mini dungeons and stuff. It's like, man, I'm not gonna go pick up every fucking item. I'm gonna get the things
Yeah.
for my build, and then I don't know, keep them at a certain level in PvP, and that's what the build is for.
So, what build are you taking into the DLC?
Carrion Sorcerer,
Yeah.
Carrion Knight.
Are you gonna keep it, or are you gonna try to like find new weapons to try
I
out?
as soon as I get a new, I have a lot of larval tiers, so as soon as I find something cool, I'll probably just drop it because
Hmm.
I want to use new things. I like the
Nice.
idea of the big katanas. Like I like the idea of the two big ass two-handed katanas.
Okay, is that what he said in the interview?
It seems to be. I asked like several different people, and that's the best we could come up with. That there's going to be some kind of gigantic two-handed katana.
Like, I translated it with AI, and then I translated it with somebody that speaks Japanese, and they're like, "It's colossal Japanese sword or big katana," and then it's like, okay, but there could be a space here, so they're two different things. So I don't know.
Yeah, I also got ambiguous answers from the people I asked, but I'm going to assume there's a giant katana.
Yeah, how different is that going to be than the curved sword? Is what I'm wondering.
I figure it's going to be like the great sword equivalent to a straight sword. So a katana would be a straight sword, and then the normal great sword would be the the bigger version. So I think it's going to be something like that,
Mm.
big, weighty, and with Japanese moves.
Okay, so like a different move set, you think, than
Yeah, because the curved
just
sword.
swinging it around?
Yeah, because the curved sword would probably, it's the equivalent of the big curved sword is the equivalent of the small curved sword, whereas this will be an equivalent of the katana specifically with the straight slashes, not so much the
Okay.
swinging it around.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you have a weapon specifically that you've seen so far that you're eager to try?
Uh, man, I've got like 6 different characters ready, and I don't know which one I want to start with. I'm doing the completionist run I'm doing right now is like a claw build, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. So I'm thinking I'm going to try the martial arts,
Mm.
the different fighting styles. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
I have an anti fist weapon personality. I know everybody disagrees with me and thinks fist weapons are cool, but I just feel that we got these cool weapons and spears and swords, and you got these
Mm,
gigantic monsters, and I feel silly just punching them. With fist type weapons.
yeah,
Claws are different. You can obviously see what claws are. They slash, they wound them, but just like punching something and kicking something, I breaks my immersion. But that's a
yeah. I
personal
get bored of it
problem.
pretty quick, but they're just it looks so cool, man, flying through the air doing those kicks. I bet the only thing I'm hoping is because fist weapons they get really overpowered really fast
Hmm.
because they do a lot of poise damage. And I'm kind of hoping these are not that way so that you actually get to experience, the boss moveset and everything up close and personal like that.
I didn't realize they were that strong.
Oh, dude, they're crazy.
So, what are you bringing in? Like, do you have a level limit that you're gonna keep, or are you gonna keep leveling up while you're there, or how are you gonna approach it?
I'm not going over 150.
Okay,
So when if the end game is still hard, that's what I'm hoping to experience in the DLC. So I'm thinking like 150 is kind of the max I want to go in at.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm going in and staying at 150 to keep around dual areas because I'm gonna definitely want to
Mhm.
PvP once I'm in there and once I have the new weapons.
Yeah, I think that's probably the perfect level right there. Because then you still have some freedom with the weapons that you want to try out. If one isn't particularly to your build, that's enough of a cushion to kind of have like, if you're a strength build, but you're level 150, you probably have around 30 decks.
Yeah,
So if there is a new dex weapon, you can still try it out without having to use a larval tier just to wield the weapon.
right. At 150, it's also good to have larval tiers because even if you started off as a mage build, you wouldn't be super unoptimal if you switch to a straight physical thing. So you have
Hmm.
150 levels to play with. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
What about the Sekiro mechanic that we've heard about? Do you have ideas of how it's going to work exactly?
I have some ideas. I think it's probably going to be kind of like Destiny, where if you don't have the particular upgrade, then it's as if you're under leveled, even though you could still try to do the activity, but it's kind of like a debuff. And every time you find the new upgrade thing, or in Destiny you get like new weapons at a higher level, then that debuff gradually goes away.
Mm.
That's
So
kind of what I'm thinking it's going to be like.
so you think it's going to be a percentage decrease to your damage output?
Damage output, health, damage you take, defenses, that kind of thing. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. I From the latest interview that Miyazaki had, he kind of said like if you're super high level and you want that challenge, because that's what I figured it's for. It's for people that are super high level and still want to be able to face a challenge. Um,
Yeah.
but he said that it's optional. Like you'll get the resource that whatever the resource is that will give you the upgrade, and you can choose not to use it. So if you're super strong, and you're fine how you are, maybe you don't want to use it. And that made me think, well, if it's like super if he's saying that you could not use it if you're high enough level and you'd be fine, uh, I wonder exactly how that's because like then it probably wouldn't be like a 90% nerf to damage. You know, it would
Hmm.
that would seem excessive. Like maybe it's 70, 60 or something. I don't know. I really want to know how how this works exactly. Like they should have him clarify in another interview. I feel like a lot of these interviews are wasting him because he's answering questions pretty good. If you asked him, is there going to be solo host invasions? He'd tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, especially in the last wave of interviews, we got the Chinese ones. The first like 5 questions were so bare bones that if you had played any Souls game like in any capacity in the past, you'd already know the answer.
Mm.
It's like, why are we wasting these precious resources and questions when, like, later on in the interview they ask about Saint Trina? Perfect question, and we need more of that.
Yeah, and the question regarding Saint Trina actually was very informative because he said
Yeah.
we had all kind of assumed just completely that Saint Trina and Miquella were the same person, and there's just alter egos of each other, and it's Miquella disguised as Saint Trina. And then Miyazaki says, "Yeah, I know people think about Saint Trina. This DLC will make the relationship more clear." So the way he said it made me think, "Hey, hang on. There's a chance it's a separate person that just has some heavy
Mhm.
ties to Miquella. Like it might not be exactly." Oh, it's just Miquella's alter ego, Miquella in disguise. It might be more significant than that. Or it might be a different person that's just not Miquella. And that just like completely threw me for a loop.
Yeah, and that was kind of a big shock too because we had all really based that assumption primarily off cut content.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, okay, now we kind of think that okay, that was cut for a reason and they're taking it in a different direction. And I have some thoughts based on the story trailer, but I don't know if you want to jump into that yet.
We're probably going to spend most of the time on that. So before we do that, let me get my unrelated questions in. Let's skip to the unrelated to the
Okay.
story trailer questions. Um, how have you? Are you still playing Destiny 2?
No, I dropped that during Lightfall.
Was it bad? How was Lightfall?
Well, the campaign for Lightfall was terrible. It was the writing was terrible, the pacing was terrible. I didn't really enjoy Strand. And then I played like a season or two after that, and then the storyline, it was just everybody was depressed. Every single story was like a therapy session. I was like, I don't want to do this. I came to fight these aliens and learn more about the cosmos and all the different races and everything. I don't care that this random character in the tower is sad and I need to cheer them up and spend 30 minutes talking about the precious resource of friendship when the traveler is about to get nuked right there. You know, I don't know. It drove me crazy, so I stopped playing.
I all I saw from that was there was a cutscene with the two big guys, and they looked so ridiculous. Like they looked so ridiculous, the two big guys on surfboards. And I'm just looking at this cutscene of these two guys just doing stuff and being large, and it's just this is just goofy. Like
Yeah,
this is not where I expected this to go because I had heard that the Witch Queen storyline was actually really solid.
it
Uh,
was. Yeah, it was really good.
and I'm like, well, maybe they're learning their lesson. Maybe they're finally buckling down and are figuring out how to tell a story. Um, but but apparently not.
Well, it was the main big guy there, Nimbus. He was, or yeah, was just like they were just this quippy like millennial humor. Just every five steps you take in Lightfall, there's some new like just boring or terribly written joke, and then they'd use it's like words like kablammy or like I don't even know, man. It's horrible. Even thinking back on it now, it makes me cringe. It didn't fit at all in the story of Destiny.
Wasn't the story like that the witness had arrived, like the witness was there and it was right in front of the traveler and like important things were happening, and then they like shoot you up to this other planet to do stuff for no reason?
Yeah, it was never explained what the veil was or how it even played into stopping the witness. Because we sat there and we watched the witness go into the traveler. The traveler changed, and nobody questioned it at all. And even in the seasons after, it was, really nothing to do with that. A very immediate threat that we needed to go deal with.
Okay, so there's another thing happening now. Another uh, what are they called? What do you call these content drops?
Uh, they used to be seasons, and now they're something different.
So have you seen what's happening in the latest one?
No, I haven't kept up with it.
Okay, all I saw was a spider. Holy shit! There's a gigantic fucking spider in my room. Holy shit! Oh man, that's a big boy. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, you good? Go kill it, man.
That's a big boy. Nah, bro, that's a jumping spider. It's giant and hairy. Sorry about that.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. I ain't never seen a spider like that.
Dang, man. I get them pretty bad here. But my cats usually take care of them.
um okay, yeah, I only asked about Destiny because I recently saw a Twitter post, and apparently Kate Six is alive and Crow's alive, and like they're on
Yeah.
the same team now, and I'm just like, okay, but I'm glad I stopped. I'm glad I stopped. This was a
Yeah, I
good.
think they realize that the only way they're getting their people to still care about the story is nostalgia.
Yeah, yeah. Remember that one DLC that everybody liked, the Forsaken. Yeah, we got these two characters back. We're calling back to it. Let's go do things with them together.
Yeah. And I think they were going to reuse a lot of the areas too, because it's supposed to be some kind of like memory world built from the things that died. I think, I don't know. It's very weird now.
Yeah, I think we just probably stop talking about it. I was curious if there had been any developments that had you interested.
No, none. I've seen a little bit and I don't care.
All right, let's get into the trailer then. What's your? Are we gonna get some Gek? Are we getting Gek stuff today? This next DLC?
I hope so, man. I hope so. It looked like it to me. All the corpses we saw that are making the Erdtree, or if that's what's happening, are skinned, at least from what I could see.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that, that's some Godskin hunt stuff going on there.
Do you think that per, so in your video you said that you thought the Marika was like putting her fist into somebody's womb and taking out the golden strands. Are you still? Is that what you're solidly on that?
Yeah, that might have been a jump. Um, the more I look at it, I can't think of anything else that might be, because it looks like cloth, like a robe that somebody's wearing, pulled apart in the middle, and then just the way everything it has that birth imagery. And I was watching a lot of breakdowns, and
Yeah.
a lot of people couldn't say like why they thought that, but the conclusion that everyone came to was it was some kind of birth imagery,
Yeah,
right?
that was my first
And so
impression too.
yeah, and so I'm thinking, well, if we're all kind of on the same page that that's what it's trying to communicate, then maybe I was correct in that assumption of it being a womb or a belly.
The
But I'm not married to that idea.
the only issue I have with it is that the cloth looks like Godskin Apostle cloth, and we know that there's that swaddling cloth talisman. So I thought maybe it was a baby's head uh, that she was reaching into and pulling the strands out of. Um, but and I was also bothered because her fist was gigantic and bigger than the stomach, the pregnant stomach. But if it was a
Yeah.
normal sized woman and Marika's as big as she is in her fight as Radigan, then okay, then Yeah, that would make sense. I didn't consider, the size difference.
Yeah, and after you mentioned that too, I was looking at it and it did seem kind of off. Like even if that was a normal person, it still looks kind of small.
Hmm. Then it could be that if it is a womb, it could be that woman that people are assuming is pregnant from painting.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking too. Is like, they show that person a lot. And then that man that's beside her, later on in the trailer, we see that golden spike. It kind of looks like the skeletal structure of the Elden Beast.
Mm.
So my kind of wild theory about all this is that the race of people that are natives to the land of shadow had this power. The I think it's the crucible that had the power to give life. They celebrated that power, and that baby that the woman is pregnant with would have inherited that power or like godhood or something. And that's what Marika is stealing in that opening shot.
What do you think the chances are that assuming that that's a pregnant woman, do you think that's the Glowmite Queen?
Uh, I don't know because then you have to consider that the Glowmide Queen was beaten by
That
Malekith,
Malekith, yeah.
and when after Marika steals that power, it says Shadow was born. So I'm kind of thinking Malekith comes after that.
Hmm.
So if it's not the Glowmide Queen, maybe she's elsewhere or
Or
on the
is that
side of
other?
America.
It could also be
And that
could be that other lady that we see later on in the trailer that seems to have
the
like.
one like crouched down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I want it to be.
I don't know. I would like more Glowmite Queen information, and the cloth really like that jump started my imagination. And I had someone say an interesting comment in the chat while I was looking at the trailer. Somebody mentioned that it could be that Mesmer's not the son, is the Glowmite Queen's son and Radigan. So
Hmm.
so Marika could have pulled another Rizzler move because that's what she did to Liurnia when she couldn't beat Liurnia outright. She sent Radigan in to seduce Renala, and it worked that time. Um, she's always doing shit like that. She unified with the dragons by being friends with them, and the dragons are real threats because they're the only ones that ever penetrated the walls of Leyendell. Uh, so she could be sending out Radigan. That's their kid, and it would explain why he's so tall and skinny. The way the
He
Godskin
looks just
Apostle,
like
he
him.
looks exactly like a Godskin Apostle.
Yeah.
If you,
Even in the face, like if you look at the face of the apostle close up, it
mm-hmm.
looks just like Mesmer.
Yeah,
And some other evidence that that could be the case too is like the Godskin nobles, which are much older than the apostles. They have those snake tails.
snake tails, yeah,
Yeah,
and they have a which could imply a crucible relation.
yeah, and that really begs the question of like where the all the snake stuff comes from because Mesmer, he's got all that snake imagery too with potentially dragon communion stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when we see the crucible like aspects, there's not much to do with snakes per se as much as they are like the feathered dragons.
Yeah, this is a good segue. Those Tower Corp. Well, let me ask you this: are you a pro Greattree or anti Greattree adherent?
There's obviously another tree.
Okay.
There obviously is another tree because if you look at it right, you've got the whole regular wooden tree beneath all the gold.
Yeah.
And then the frenzied flame ending, you burn down the tree, there's just that big like bark trunk going up. And at the top of the tree, you've got the wooden branches that the gold is like crawling over, which we get into mushroom theory stuff there, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much. But I think there was at least another tree before the gold.
Okay.
If that is the same tree or not, then I don't know, but there's something going on there.
My feeling is like the objection that the anti Greattree people have is that the Japanese text has gold tree and Greattree sometimes used interchangeably in the text, and so they don't like the root resin item description because they think it's not translated well, and so that just meant Greattree, as in the great tree that is the Erdtree, and that's the problem. The issue is, like, it actually doesn't matter if it's translated properly or not, because I think there's a lot to suggest that there was a tree that was there that is not necessarily like completely separate to the Erdtree, but that wasn't called the Erdtree, and that was associated with the Crucible. Like, that seems to me reasonable. There was a tree that was tied to the Crucible. It was shaped like the Crucible, and it wasn't the Erdtree exactly. It wasn't this light column tree that's so closely associated with Marika. And then the Erdtree is on its stump, or it's connected to its roots. So it's functionally
you go down to deeper depths, and there are these massive trunks everywhere. They're so much bigger than any other tree we see in the lands between,
including
as
the
if they
Erdtree.
were all like cut down. Yeah, and they're very distinctly different trees too. They're not like roots. They're not any kind of potential offshoot that could have also sprouted. They're all like big trunks, and I don't see that talked about anywhere.
Okay, so I think we're on the same page. We're pro the concept of the Greattree, even if the translation isn't exactly literal.
Yeah, I think there definitely was, or at least may have been multiple big trees before that.
Then what about the tower of corpses that kind of form a gate that you see Marika holding the strands on? What's going on with that?
Well, I think that's the birth of the Erdtree. You know, we look at the Erdtree roots. They place bodies into the roots, and those bodies become more roots for the tree. And so, you know, why would we assume the actual tree itself works differently than that?
And do you think those bodies are from the people of the Shadowlands, and she's using them to make the Erdtree, and that's one of the reasons why she's trying to cover it up?
Yeah, that's the impression I get. And, you know, are those the gods that died in the Godskin hunt? You know, were they all placed up there and formed into the tree?
If they're the gods that died in the Godskin hunt, wouldn't that make Marika the Glowmite Queen?
Yeah, you could argue that. I don't necessarily fall into that camp, but I'm not super against the idea.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to shake up a lot of theories that people had before. I've always been on the side of, we don't have good information. Like, we're lacking big chunks of information that makes it hard to speculate about anything. And so all the good theories are actually theories that are based on assumptions and speculations. And that's the only way that you can do things. It's interesting, but there's not that much tying you back to in-game lore evidence for any of the really interesting theories out there. And now that I'm really hoping that this DLC will drop some absolutely dense lore that will make things clearer.
Well, I think one thing we have to consider too is like how much of this is overwritten history or like changed to hide the things that went on back then. Because if Marika is the Glowmite Queen, then you know that item description or the Remembrance of Malekith talks about Malekith's only purpose being to seal away destined death. And so if Marika was the Glowmite Queen, perhaps she fabricated the idea of this big villain in the Glowmite Queen in order to, you know, hide the fact that she committed all that sin back then.
Did you see my latest video that I uploaded?
I did. I watched it right before this.
Nice. There was a cool comment that I pinned in that video talking about the Japanese version of Malekith's description, where it said she only had one purpose up for him, to seal destined death, and even so she betrayed him. In the Japanese, it's more like, in the end, she betrayed it, like the purpose she gave him, not necessarily him. She betrayed the purpose she gave him to seal destined death. Like that, I think that heavily implies she stole the rune.
Yeah, it's never really sat right with me that they just went and stole a fragment of the Rune of Death. There's obviously more going on there.
Yeah, from Malekith.
How? Yeah.
This is one job.
Yeah, he's called the death of the demigods, you know? Like, how would the demigods just go and take it?
Yeah.
But you also talk to Malekith, and he's under the impression that it was stolen by someone not Marika, because he says like I won't fail you again or something like that.
Yeah, but it's like it sounds like she doesn't like forcefully take it. Like she would be in a position to just be around him and like sneak it away. Whereas I don't think that Ronnie would be able to like just be in his presence and distract him and sneak it away.
Yeah,
Whereas Marika, he wouldn't have expected her to try, and then he notices it's stolen, and he knows that it's her. Like his behavior makes a lot of sense if he knows it's her, but is suspicious, but he can't prove it, and so he's like in denial, and that's why he's like, oh, I have to get the thing. Marika's never gonna be the same. And then at the end, and when he dies as Garak, and the surfers were like, why gull me? Why shatter? Those seem like two separate sentences to me. Like her shattering the ring doesn't seem to. That's not a trick. That's not him being tricked. Uh, no,
yeah, and
gold.
everyone knows about it too.
Yeah, everybody knows about her shattering the Elden Ring. So it has nothing to do with Malekith specifically. When he says, "Why gall me?" That seems to me like he's like, "Why did you trick me specifically?" And also, "Why did you shatter the Elden Ring?" Two separate sentences that aren't connected, in my opinion.
So one thing that could build off of that, an idea that could give some motive to that, is the little spear that we see impaling her. You know that wherever that spear goes into her, we
Mm-hmm.
also see that mark on the Elden Beast. So if she was the one that took destined death, then perhaps one reason that she did that was to actually harm the greater will and open up the possibility of us to kill the Elden Beast.
Mm.
Because that spear, it's black and red, just like destined death. And there's nothing in the game that even hints at what that is.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about it. I'm just confused with exactly like forget whether she did the Night of the Black Knives. What's she trying to get rid of? Because a lot of her goals seem to be aligned with what the greater will would want. You know, even now, like she wants an Elden Lord. The Fingers want an Elden Lord. Radigan is the one that seems to not want a new Elden Lord. So her
Yeah.
and the Fingers are very aligned in almost every way. She wants a new Elden Lord. The Fingers want a new Elden Lord. She abandons the demigods and the died demigods. The Greater Will abandons the demigods and the died demigods. Um, she extends the grace to the Tarnished. The Greater Will is like, yes, the Tarnished need to come over here and become Elden Lord. So in every step, pretty much, they're in agreement. Um, and then what? You fight the Elden Beast, and that the Fingers didn't expect. Well, what did they expect? Then was going to happen when you go into the Erdtree. So
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. And even even just off that, what are the Fingers? How did they come to be? Where did they come from? How do they don't fit in with anything else in the game? It's like, oh, they're the envoys of the greater will that communicate their message, and they have their own holy language. It's like, okay, but why and from where
yeah.
and what are they related to? You know, I so even their motivations, like with the assassins and uh what are they called? The confessors.
Mm-hmm.
The confessor symbol looks a whole lot like Mesmer's spear too.
Oh, I
So
hadn't even considered that.
maybe the Fingers were created by Marika to enact that, or do that dirty work and then become like the clergy, you know.
It's so strange because like up until this point before this DLC, I always assumed that the Fingers predate Marika. Because she's an Empyrean, the Glowmite Queen is Empyrean. I figured something along the lines that the Fingers came around, they were both Empyreans and they had to duke it out to become the new iteration of order, and Marika established the Golden Order after that. Or either the Glowmite Queen was the pre-established order before America, or they were both Empyreans and vying for the new seat, and they America ended up winning out in the end, something like that. But the way that this trailer sets things up, like what she did, seems more fundamental, um,
Mhm.
to the point where I'm not sure if the fingers were around or not anymore. I don't know. All my theories are up in the air. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I have no idea where they play into all this. And we don't have kind of any hints of where they play into it. The only thing is that they're on top of the divine towers,
Mm.
on top of the old meteorite shrines, and they're dead and turned into wood. And why? Where do they come from? Are they giants' fingers that were repurposed, given life somehow? I don't know. But what I think is very clearly happening in that beginning shot of the story trailer is her creating the idea of order, and the actual shape of a rune out of the chaos that was the crucible.
Okay.
And for the fingers to exist before that would be, very strange.
What about the Nokram? What about the finger slaying blade? Do you think that they existed around the same time as Marika and were punished around that time, or they existed before Marika? Because if they existed before Marika, then the finger slaying blade would have been used on fingers, and the fingers would have been around before Marika.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because that kind of goes into like a whole another can of worms too. Because the way Miyazaki said that Marika came to the land of shadow, she set foot there, implying that she was from somewhere else
Right.
originally.
Right.
So that could be the missing piece of the puzzle, the high treason committed, that she went over there with that technology of the Finger Slayer blade and killed their god,
Mm.
stole the power, and then transformed that power into the Elden Ring. But another thing I think is happening there too in that first shot, whenever she holds up the hair or the strands or whatever and holds it in place to make that rune, she gets like blasted with this shot of wind and power. And was what's happening right there, her summoning the Elden Beast.
Okay, so you think there's a chance the Elden Beast hadn't even dropped yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Man, I do like that idea of this, good eye about the she takes the strands and she seems to be like weaving them into the shape of the lower arc of the Elden Ring. That's good. Like, okay, yeah, that seems right for sure.
Well, I think that's why it's called order, right? She's creating order out of the chaos, and
Hmm.
Crucible is described as chaos.
Hmm.
Whenever they break the order of the Elden Ring, that's when it turns back into those strands, that chaos, that, lack of order. At least that's what I'm thinking
That
is what's being communicated there.
that civilization that they're destroying does seem to have Crucible connections because the Lion Dance is got omen horns, and the omen horns are connected to the Crucible. So maybe it's a civilization that's closely aligned with the Crucible.
Yeah. And I think the Crucible is what they worshipped because the Crucible is also said to be the primordial form of the Erdtree.
Mm.
And if the Erdtree was born in the Land of Shadow, then that's
Yeah, it would.
where its primordial form would have been.
Yeah, it would
The
have to be.
Crucible.
Yeah, it would have to be the primordial form of the Earth tree.
Yeah.
Right. What about Miquella? Good old kindly Miquella. Are you?
Man, we've seen this before, bro. We've seen Berserk. We know how this ends. At least that's what I'm thinking. We got our Band of the Hawk there at the end.
I agree, but I think there's also a chance that maybe they're going to surprise us because it seems like
Yeah.
everybody's suspicious of Miquella right now. It's like not in game. Everyone in game seems to be pro Miquella, but out here in the world, everybody's kind of like anti Miquella. And I wonder if Miyazaki's going to try and subvert expectations. And oh no, he's just a good guy. He's just suspicious for no reason. He's actually a good character. I think that's possible.
Yeah, but then why throw in, that he's the most fearsome Empyrean? There's nothing more terrifying. The unnerving form of Saint Trina. It is trying to communicate at least
That
that
he's
some
scary. He's a
people.
scary guy.
Yeah, but I would like it better if he was good. But something we have to consider too is like in Dark Souls, the people we always fought weren't necessarily villains.
Mm.
We just had different interests, like Gwen or pretty much everybody, Sif, Artorias. They weren't bad per se, but we had to do away with them for a greater reason. And Miquella may play into that somehow. I don't know. I don't really have a way to predict that at the moment. But I would be pleasantly surprised if he's not, the big bad.
My current assumption with Miquella is that he's going to play into um, the heroic concept idea that the other demigods seem to fall into. I made a series of videos on each one, and Miquella seems to be very associated with purity, and that might be his heroic virtue. Like that's the thing that he's all about, purity. He's unalloyed gold, not mixed with other things. He removes himself from his body and his grace and his strength to be more pure. And he shraves clean. I think it's shrave. What it said?
Shrive.
Yeah, shrives clean the souls of men. So he cleans them. And shrive is like a confession or something like that, and cleans them as a result, in a scary way because the guy's scared. Like he does that in a scary way. He cleans something. He cleans your soul in a very scary way. It seems to be what the guy's saying. And so like if he has a heroic concept, it's like purity, and purity seems to be good, but he's obsessed and took it to such an extreme that he became a bad guy. And the song that you hear at the end of the trailer sounds like it would be somebody's boss song. And if it's going to be anybody's boss song, that seems like it could be Miquella's boss song.
Yeah, it does sound very, like there's a child voice at the beginning of that song, and then there's this like positive sound,
Mm-hmm.
that heroic march type beat. And yeah, I don't think it would really make sense to be somebody that isn't seen as a good person
Mm.
if that is a boss track. But I also don't know what his goal is.
That's true. I have no idea what he's trying to do.
Is he just trying to unveil the land of shadow? Is that his end goal? I don't think that's, well, I guess maybe it could be a goal worth pursuing and going to all those links for, but it doesn't necessarily line up with what we see his intentions as in the main game.
Yeah, he has a lot of goals, and his goals are big. I have to assume that he's doing this maybe partially. Either he gave up on all of those and he's doing something else, or this might help with whatever else he was trying to do. He was trying to cure Melania of her rot. He was trying to cure Godwin of his death blight. Did he quit on all that? And he's like, nah, fuck it, we're going to the land of shadows.
Yeah, good question. And that's something we need to be asking right now because, it also makes you wonder, well, why did we kill Melania, right?
Mm.
What was the reason besides taking her rune?
Curiosity.
And I feel like, we're gonna meet Miquella in the DLC. It's like, oh, I killed your sister. Okay, sorry about it.
It could be that
I don't know how that's gonna go down.
He could just be a sociopath and he's done with her. He doesn't care. Like if he could just be a sociopath. It sounds to me like he's manipulative, like because it's just every description about him says is like, oh yeah, everybody loves Miquella. In fact, he learned well how to compel such affection. And there's the magical affection that you have with his little needle, But I don't think that's actually what it's pointing to. It sounds like it's pointing to him being just very charismatic and knowing that he's very charismatic, and he's a child, so he's cute, and uses that to manipulate people to do what he wants.
Yeah, but you also have his soldiers that blow themselves up just to
right
shine a light that he may see.
Yeah,
that's very sinister right there.
Yeah, but it's scarier if he's not magically controlling him to do that. It's scarier if they just believe in him and like him enough to do that out of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems to me what the game's going for. Well, I only have one more question written down, and I hesitate to ask it because I think I know the answer. What are your thoughts on the idea that the DLC might give us solo host invasions in some form or covenants?
I want it so bad. I wish it would come back. It would save PvP, but I don't think they're going to do it.
I think I had hope before, but I'm kind of at the point where I was like, no, they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it. It's just
No, I don't think they care that much about PvP per se, because they've been supporting PvP ever since the game dropped. They've been doing more PvP updates than anything else.
Mhm.
And, I think now's the time for them to focus on the main game, and they've kind of done everything they can to revive PvP.
I have a small hope that maybe there'll be a section in the DLC with a building or a couple buildings where it'll be like a covenant area, one covenant area where you walk in and you can be solo host invaded, or if you yeah yeah or if you come in with a phantom, you get two people at a time really quickly, the way the Aldrich Faithful used to work in Dark Souls 3. Because I think PvP was at its best in Dark Souls 3.
Hmm.
So there's like a small hope there in there for me that they might do something like that. But I'm not. As time goes on and we get no information on it, I think, okay, they don't care. This isn't about that anymore. Like, this is not. They're happy with it, or at least unbothered by the PvP. We're not getting anything.
Well, it would be on track for them to introduce something like that, because they did do all that in the DLCs in the past, right? You had the what was it? The Spears of the Church.
Mm-hmm.
The Dark Souls 2 DLC had some well, no, Looking Glass Knight wasn't a DLC boss. Dark Souls 1 had the Colosseum with Artorias.
Mm-hmm.
But I want them to very badly, and there's a really good opportunity for it here, with the DLC. Because now that once people get to the DLC, they'll be, deep enough into the game, right? They don't need to really worry about turning people away from the experience because of PvP and solo invasions. And especially if the DLC is much smaller, then you don't have to worry too much about the whole torrent question, which is a potential
Right.
justification for no solo host invasions. But and if I'm were to put money on it, I wouldn't think they're going to.
Yeah. If I was gonna bet, I'd bet against it.
Yeah, sadly.
Well,
I do want to ask you another lore question though,
go for it.
because I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. Do you think Radagon? Do you think based on this new trailer that Radagon was always there and always part of America?
If Mesmer's the child of Radigan, and he's burning that city down before the Erdtree, before Godfrey, before any of that stuff, then he's at least a part of her from way back then. My assumption up until this point was that Radigan might have been born during the Fire Giants' conquest. So I thought maybe they get to the Fire Giant area, she defeats them, but realizes she can't kill them because it's an outer god, and so leaves one Fire Giant there to tend the flame as punishment. And kind of like seals it by absorbing it into herself, the way that she seems to keep doing to other things. She marries Radagon off to Liurnia to incorporate it. She incorporates the dragons. She keeps incorporating things into the Golden Order as a means to control them. And so I figured maybe that's how Radagon was born. She kind of married the fell god and sealed it in her body. And that's the reason why Radagon hates his red hair, because he knows he's from fell god giant lineage, and he's very pro Golden Order. He hates that about himself. That was my assumption before. But if Mesmer predates that by a lot, which he seems to, then he must, yeah, he was either always a part of her or was a part of her from much longer ago than we thought.
Yeah, I think that's what's kind of suggested there. And then, the Wicker Men have those fire giant heads like on their waist, right?
Do they?
And so, yeah, they've got two fire giant heads wrapped around their waist. And
They
they've also
do.
got dragon heads on there and some other things.
What?
Have you not seen that?
I guess I didn't notice it.
Yeah, in the gameplay trailer, whenever it like stomps down, whenever it stomps, you see just this fire giant
Holy
head
shit!
tied on
What?
with
How did I
drape.
not see that? How did I not see that? Wait a minute. Wait a minute, this changes things. When did this happen then? What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a big variable we have to wonder about.
There's just a fire giant head on his waist. Well, could this have happened post fire giant? Do you have thoughts on this?
No, I don't know.
You've caught me by surprise.
It throws a wrench into the idea of obviously this kind of predating everything. But, there's also evidence that Mesmer could have been involved in the giant conquest with all the Erdtree spears impaling the giants and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I fall into that camp, but, that's a point of evidence that could be used to suggest that.
Does his spear look like the spears in the mountaintop of the giants? I'm going to have to go look at those.
Not very close, but they do kind of have that ring shape, that half arch.
So if this happened, then it would have to have happened. Okay, if this is post fire giant, then Godfrey is around. He kills the fire giants, then is banished, and then there's a period of time before Radagon becomes married to Liurnia, to Renala. So it would have to have happened in that in between phase, where this. No, this doesn't make any sense. No, because the Erdtree would have already been well established by that point. This is odd. I have no clue.
Yeah, and then you also have to wonder, Godfrey embodies all those aspects of the Crucible too. So was the Land of Shadow around during Godfrey's reign, and then all the war happens after Radagon shows up, or after he's gone across the sea? Could the Land of Shadow even be the Badlands? Is that the war that the Tarnished fought in, where they had to die and then come back? I don't know.
Man, I'm glad you pointed that out. I did not know about that detail. Well, with that, I think we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to get to.
Yeah, we covered quite a bit, man.
Thank you for coming, Zio, and for everyone else, thank you very much for watching.